Karl-Anthony Towns just destroyed the Brooklyn Nets, and here's why it's just the start of things to come.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to the New York Knicks. My name is XJ. I'm a native New Yorker, lifetime Knicks fan, and co-founder of the Hot Hand Theory podcast and media company. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network on the planet Earth. That's pretty cool. Locked On Knicks brings you the most detailed insights in the New York Knicks at least 5 days a week. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which would be a huge milestone. I would really appreciate if you took a moment to go ahead and subscribe right now. It really is the #1 way you can help out the channel, and that goes for on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Guys, if you're listening to this, I think there's a lot to be pleased about with the New York Knicks win over the Brooklyn Nets, which is what we'll get into. I know a lot of people will say, first things first in the comments, it's just the Nets. The Nets are terrible. They're one of the worst teams in the league, which is true. Although they just gave Toronto a run for their money, who was a very good team in the East. But there's a lot of takeaways here, and I'm going to break them all down, starting with Karl-Anthony Towns, moving on to Tyler Kolek, who I don't think Knicks fans may realize how good a game he just had and what that may mean for the future. And then really just key takeaways, both positive and negative, potentially, for the short-term future of the New York Knicks. But first, we got to start with Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns, we were getting the, let's trade Towns stuff. We were just getting it, and it's going to happen. It's going to come up when he's not shooting well, when he's fouling, when things aren't going as well as they could be. Towns is going to be the guy to take the heat. We know that from last season. Honestly, I thought that would happen right immediately after the trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. He just has a style that people may not all appreciate. People may not all like. He can be a little bit flighty and inconsistent at times, especially with his aggression, with his defense, obviously, as we know, and I'll get a little bit into his defense. But I just think he's so good. He's so uniquely talented. When he plays the way that we know he can play, the way he played against the Brooklyn Nets and has played in multiple games this season, we know he can dominate games. He can win games single-handedly, which, as weird as it is to say, he kind of did that against the Nets in this most recent game. It always seems like when the trade Towns stuff gets loud enough, or it's, Towns, we got to be done with him, that seems to be when he kind of erupts for these dominant performances. And make no mistake about it, he was dominant in this game. I want to mention too, I know it's against the Nets. I know it's a bad team. Nic Claxton has been a 90th percentile post defender in 2 of the last 3 seasons. This is not a scrub. Karl-Anthony Towns cooked Nic Claxton. He cooked anybody who was guarding him. And at various points, the Nets felt that he was so dominant, they needed to bring 2 to the ball. We know what happens when you bring 2 to the ball on defense. You're basically inviting the offense to make high efficiency shots basically on every possession, when you just concede and say, yeah, we'll just put 2 on the ball and make you pass it, and somebody else is going to be open. If the defense is doing that, they're basically just saying, we're so scared of you that we're willing to just concede highly efficient offense to you, as long as it's not from that guy. And they did that with Towns at multiple occasions because he was that good, bullying his way to the rim, his inside game being so strong because of the threat of his outside shooting, and obviously his overall skill, as we saw, that lefty hook floater off the dribble was just a ridiculous display of skill. And he showed it all night. His patented trail 3, his patented trail pump fake 3, straight line drive to the rim, finish and a foul. He did a couple times. like I said, drawing doubles and really, really good spacing lineups that led to wide open shots like a Deuce McBride corner three. And then, we saw late in the game, he fell down, seemed like he could have been injured, may have hurt his hip. I mean, he definitely hurt his hip. We'll see what his status is for the next game. I think he could miss a game. That looked like a really, really hard fall, and it just seems like the kind of contusion where they'll want to rest it and ice it and just kind of let him heal up before coming back. I think that's possible. But if Towns misses time, just like OG and Anunoby, we will find out exactly how valuable Karl-Anthony Towns is to this team and just in general. Because Schwinn from the Strickland I saw had talked about on his podcast a little bit about Karl-Anthony Towns' sort of effect or impact on the team despite his poor shooting numbers. And I think that's such an important point. His gravity, his ability to shoot, especially when he's playing the five with no Mitchell Robinson, we see how effective he is. Even if he's not making shots, he just has such an impact on the defense. There is no answer. There is no one else in the NBA like Karl-Anthony Towns in terms of the threat that they have at the five position from three. He is the greatest big man shooter of all time. That means something. That matters. And I know we may not all like his style or, again, the fouling, the inconsistency, some of those things, they bother me too, man. But the guy is so good, and when he has it going, this is one of the best offensive players in the league, bar none. Like there's not even a conversation about whether he is or not. He is. He absolutely is. But that's just offense. And we can talk all day about, a lot of the plays that he made. Really, really, really smart plays in terms of being able to draw to and kick to the right guy, taking the three when he had an open three, pumping and driving when he felt like he had a good advantage on the interior. Amazing touch, being able to finish in a crowd, even dribbling through a crowd. He just played a really, really smart game offensively. There was one thing I wanted to mention, which was, before I talk about the other thing I wanted to talk about with Towns, Mike Breen at some point started talking about on the broadcast how Towns was taking a ton of long threes, and that may be some of the reason why he's shooting like lower percentages, because these are more difficult long range threes. And was just saying, at some point you kind of got to just take shorter threes, basically. I felt like that was Breen's conclusion. And I really liked the data that he brought, but I didn't agree with his conclusion. I think that Karl-Anthony Towns should generally take some closer threes like he did against the Nets, to get into a rhythm, to kind of get the shot going, to see the shot falling, to build back his confidence. But taking deep threes has to be a part of Karl-Anthony Towns' game. That is what makes him unique and unlike any other big, or really most other shooters in the entire NBA, is that he is an elite deep range 3-point shooter, and that has value in of itself. The ability to shoot from that range confers so much value, because although that range is not worth another point, having to guard out to that range is worth a certain amount of spacing, which converts to an increase in the amount of efficiency or the amount of points that one can score, a team can score throughout the course of a game. It has a very tangible value being able to shoot from that range, and Karl-Anthony Towns does that as well as or better than anyone else in the National Basketball Association. So he can never give that up because he's not hitting those shots. That is what makes him him. And so, yeah, take closer shots, get into a rhythm. Once you see the ball go through the hoop, stretch it back out, man. Take those deep threes. I need to see him take those threes. What I want to talk about with Towns, and I won't go too deep into this because I think we'll talk more extensively on this as the season goes on and we get some more data on it. Defensively, Karl-Anthony Towns defensively was awesome this game. And to be honest with you, I think he's been very good all season. This is not something that's being talked about. He currently estimated plus minus dunks and threes impact metric just came out with their early season metrics. Take them with an extreme grain of salt. It's like 15 game sample size, very, very susceptible to noise. But it's not nothing. It's a data point. It has some meaning. It has some value. Karl-Anthony Towns leads the New York Knicks in defensive EPM. And of course, a lot of that is because of his defensive rebounding, which is a critical part of defense. But he's just playing straight up good defense. The strip that he had on Claxton to create a fast break that didn't go very well due to Gershon Yabusele, but we don't have to talk about that. Really, really good contests. He had really good blocks multiple times, both in terms of guarding on the ball and being in a helper position. One of his blocks was called away because there was a terrible foul call on Brunson that clearly wasn't a foul. I mentioned the strip on an overplay, starting a fast break, and he also stripped Clowney, helping on a drive that really should have been out of bounds off of Clowney's knee, but they called it a Nets ball. He's just played good defense inside throughout the entire game, and he's been playing really well throughout this season. So I know that he can be frustrating at times. Like I said, I'll reiterate that, but Karl-Anthony Towns is a really, really, really good player and definitely can be the second best player on a championship team, in my opinion. Somebody who can be a contributor to a championship team who we may not have considered up until this point, Tyler Kolek showed that he can absolutely be that, and I'm going to tell you why when we come back right after this. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all in one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends Advanced Tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. When you're hydrated, everything just works better. Your focus, energy, mood, even your skin. That's why people love using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps you running at full power, no matter what your day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half of the sugar of leading brands, using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. Hydration has become non-negotiable these days. Drip Drop helps you feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. So guys, we got to talk about Tyler Kolek. I'm a big Tyler Kolek fan. I don't know. It's hard for me to get a sense of the pulse of the Knicks fan base, because I feel that I see a lot of comments where people are like, don't like Kolek, don't like his defense, think that, he makes too many mistakes at times. His shooting can be inconsistent when he's not knocking down shots. It's like, why is he on the court? Why is he in the game? Mike Brown put him in the doghouse for a little while, which I didn't necessarily agree with, primarily because of his defense, I think. So it's never clear to me whether Knicks fans generally really like Kolek, want to see him play or don't. I would love to see your comments. If you want to drop comments, I engage with all the comments that come on the videos that I participate in. And I would really want to see your thoughts, because to me, Tyler Kolek, I thought, was the second most impactful player in the game, in this game against the Brooklyn Nets. And Mikal Bridges was excellent again. Jalen Brunson quietly just had a bunch of buckets, was playing within himself, making really, really good passes, didn't always get the assists, but had hockey assists, played decent defense as well, I thought, especially off the ball. And so those guys played really well, but Tyler Kolek had a very seismic impact on this game, a critically important seismic impact on this game that was absolutely felt every minute that he was on the court, outside of garbage time. He was aggressive. He was assertive. He was controlling the flow of offense. And to me, he is a large part of why Towns had such a good game. The Towns-Kolek two-man game was really interesting to watch. It was really interesting to see this dynamic where Kolek was the guard, basically force-feeding Towns rather than opportunistically feeding him. It wasn't like the Brunson-Towns dynamic where it's Brunson is if I'm double covered, I will get it to Towns because he has a clear advantage. It is like Kolek was like, the moment Towns has any semblance of an advantage, I'm getting it to him in the perfect spot so he can capitalize on that advantage. That is how Kolek approached playing with Karl-Anthony Towns. And it really seemed to put a battery in Karl-Anthony Towns' back, honestly. Like, it helped Towns be aggressive. It helped him attack the basket. And my sense is that he came into the game wanting to come with that aggression and assertion in terms of Towns. But I feel that Kolek's play is just feeding him repeatedly, giving it to him in perfect opportunities to be able to attack, really enhance Towns' ability to do that. I thought it was really, really good and really impressive. And the way that maybe Brunson can take some notes from that. And I almost felt like he did, because Brunson made some really, really nice passes to Towns as well. That one behind the back pass to Towns for a open pick and pop three. But several interplays between Brunson and Towns kind of happened after that Kolek and Towns run. And I feel like it was almost a model for when we got to get Towns going. It's not just give Towns the ball and let him isolate. It's let him play off a guard, but have that guard feed him and help him get into positions where he can attack with even the slightest advantage. He doesn't need a huge advantage. Doesn't need to be two to the ball. Two guys are on Jalen Brunson, and then you could get it to Towns. It can just be like a guy is over helping. A guy is out of position. A guy is late. Towns has, he has a really good seal on his defender close to the basket. It could be a number of things. It could be you could see someone's playing too far off Towns, so by the time they close out, he can blow past and get to the rim in one of his straight line drives. All these things are possible if you're making a concerted effort to have this guard big interplay, and also with the express purpose of saying we're feeding Towns and we're gonna have him eat. And that's what Kolek did, and it was so good. And besides just his interplay with Towns, I just thought he was good overall. He was pesky on defense. At various points, I was like, this guy just seems annoying defensively, which is really how you want to see him when you're a smaller guard and maybe not the most athletically inclined. You want to just be like so annoying. Like, you want the offense to be like, just leave me alone. And that's how I felt about Kolek at times. I thought that Brunson, Kolek, Bridges, Yabusele, and Towns lineup was so interesting. I loved that Mike Brown rewarded Tyler Kolek for how well he played on both ends of the court and let him stay on the court and play with Jalen Brunson in that 5-shooter lineup that I thought was such a cool lineup to see run out there. And I would love to see that lineup play some more. He was able to allow Brunson to play off ball sometimes and just provide another body to space in the corners that is actually a threat to catch and shoot or catch the ball and reverse it to the other side of the court extremely quickly, because we know that's sort of Tyler Kolek, his gift, not just his general passing, but his kind of ability to connect and link guys and link sides of the court. That's something that he does uniquely well, with how quickly he passes, how anticipatory he is as a passer. That is a Tyler Kolek gift. Like, make no mistake, in terms of even at an NBA level, there aren't many guys who do it like Kolek does it. And that jumps off the screen to me when I watch him. It just pops. It's like, this guy's passing is on another level. It's different. It's different than anybody else on the team. And even for the NBA, it is a very, very high level. He made that one perfect three-quarters court pass to Bridges off of a long rebound off a three. Hit ahead, easy transition bucket for Bridges, and it just showed how quickly his kind of reaction time is, his processing time is, and then the touch that he had on that pass to get an easy layup to Bridges was so nice. And he even took a big charge in the fourth quarter when the Nets were in transition, like making a really good defensive play. He had that one beautiful entry pass to Karl-Anthony Towns, who flashed in the post. They kind of ran like a pick and pop. It wasn't there. Towns continued to go straight to the hole, turned the pick and pop into basically a pick and roll. Kolek hit him with a great pass, just a complete dime to Towns, who was able to finish it close to the rim. So overall, I really thought he was the Knicks' second most impactful player, and I think it's going to have an effect on how they're going to get by without Landry, Shamet, and even without OG and Anunoby if they're willing to play some of these Kolek Brunson lineups. And if Kolek and Towns are going to have this dynamic, that's going to be super impactful for the team and meaningful, very meaningful. That is something to watch out for in these future games. And come back to this episode and you can roast me in the comments if I'm completely wrong. But if I'm right, this is going to be very interesting to watch. And I hope I am. Speaking of what will be interesting to watch, there are a few things that I feel are concerning, but a few things that I feel like are very good things that we can extrapolate out of this game, because of course we have to recognize that the Nets are not that good, a bad team. We recognize that, but there are always things you can learn from the game. And I'm going to tell you about a few of those things that I feel like we can take away coming up next. But first, a word from our friends at Gametime. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. And Gametime's zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. So we want to talk in our last segment about kind of the good and the concerning from this game as far as takeaways for the future. Because when you play a bad team, it's hard to say, this guy dominated, and so that means X, Y, and Z. But you can say, we saw this process, or we saw this lineup, or we saw this rotation, or we saw this wrinkle, or we saw this type of aggression, or we saw this dynamic. And that is something that may be meaningful moving forward. Some of the really good things that I liked, Josh Hart's defensive engagement was different in this game. This was like, okay, when Josh Hart plays defense like this is why he can be a bad shooter and still make an impact on the game. He, was drawing moving screens, generating steals in transition. He was shrinking the court really with his stunting, like his OG and Anunoby style stunting, and just overall positioning, being in the right place. Wasn't too far off his man, being like a space cadet out there, like we know happens sometimes to him off ball, but was kind of measured in terms of, his momentum is towards the ball handler when the ball handler is not in a position to pass, and when the ball handler is in a position to pass, Josh Hart his momentum is now moving back towards his man, so he's not caught in this no man's land situation. He played really, really well, and that took so much focus and effort on his part. So I love seeing that. I love seeing him shoot the open three without hesitation, especially when Jordi Fernandez had them running the ghost coverage on Josh Hart and basically leaving him open. That's all that stuff matters. So I think we're seeing really, really positive signs, a general positive trend from Josh Hart. And this game in particular on the defensive end was what mattered the most to me. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Brunson and Towns pick and pop chemistry. Beautiful. Beautiful. That behind the back pass to Towns, cashed it. I just love that they on multiple occasions, it was like pick and pop. No, it doesn't work. Okay, sprint back to it, run it again. Like, why don't they do that more often? Why is it like, oh, the pick and pop didn't work, let's just go somewhere else? It's like, no, do it again. Make the defense guard that again. It's the hardest action that the hardest on-ball action that the defense can possibly guard against this New York Knicks basketball team. A pick and pop, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, two of the best offensive players in the entire NBA over the last 10 years, over the last decade, two of the best offensive players, both in the same action, both devastating shooters with space around them. It is one of the most devastating on-ball actions you can possibly have in the league. Run it, run it, run it, run it. And they did. And I loved it. And they should continue to do that. There were a couple small things. Mike Brown, I thought I don't know if this was intentional, but there was something I noticed with Josh Hart when he was kind of not being guarded that I think could be a really interesting, it's just going to be something to monitor. an interesting way to combat the way that defenses guard him when they leave him open. He had, or Josh Hart chose to basically run away from the ball and kind of sprint around and sprint out to the corner and then receive the ball right away. I think it was Deuce McBride in this case. Josh Hart ran kind of around the court, went to the corner. His defender then was triggered to move towards the ball because Josh Hart was moving further away from it. Deuce McBride immediately whipped it to Josh Hart in the corner, who was attacking a defender that basically had just left him, which put that defender in a really, really bad spot. They immediately fouled Josh Hart. And I was like, man, that's kind of a smart tactic to say, if you're going to play off of him, you have to at some point move away from him. And when you move away from him, if he's receiving the ball on a stampede, good luck trying to stay in front of this guy who is one of the best finishers and definitely was last season in the NBA, especially in transition. It almost creates like a transition opportunity for Josh Hart out of the half court when you play that way. And I don't know if it was a Mike Brown adjustment or if it was just something that happened organically on the fly, but that is something to monitor because I feel like that'll be really hard to stop and is a good way to punish the defense for the way that they play Josh Hart. So that's something to look at. And then overall, I there was a couple of things that I felt like were concerning. I don't think these are big red flags or will necessarily be a big problem moving forward, but it was the first game that I felt like there was a little too much Jordan Clarkson dribbling. I'm not sure if it's just, knowing that Landry and OG were out coming into the game, that Clarkson felt like he needed to do a little bit more, but there were some cases where I was like, he's not moving the ball. He looked a little bit like Utah Clarkson to me. Not always. Like a couple of times he was very, very assertive and just decided to drive the ball, get some layups. Missed a couple wide open corner threes, which, that's going to happen. No big deal. But there was a little bit of like, this kind of looks like the Jordan Clarkson that I was concerned about, not the Jordan Clarkson that we've gotten this season, which has been an incredible Jordan Clarkson. So not something to be concerned about, but something that I just noticed. Deuce's shot not going. Obviously, that's going to turn around, but Deuce is going to have to hit shots. And when he does, he's going to be super, super valuable. But the point is that like during this stretch without Landry Shamet, it puts a lot more pressure on him to be able to make shots because there's not somewhere else you can go for that. That's who you have. That's who you have. That's going to be your most aggressive sniper who can pull shots from anywhere, who's going to be your best spacer. And you don't really have an alternative option. Jordan Clarkson is not quite that same level of shooter. And so while Landry Shamet is out for whoever knows how long, this is going to be a really important stretch for Deuce McBride. And, I just want to see him make more shots more consistently. And there's nothing you can do about it. Obviously, it's a variance thing. There's luck factors involved. There's rhythm and factors involved. I'm sure at the end of the season, he's going to end at 37, 38, 39, 40% from three, but they kind of need him to do it during this stretch. So hopefully he's able to do that. And then I feel like there was a couple things that the Nets did that was smart. I think that when they were bringing the full court pressure, it made the Knicks start their possessions late, and it really disrupted them. So I'm sure other teams are going to continue to do that more and more as the season goes on. They've done that against the Knicks a little bit, but I feel like the Nets kind of went away from it. I think if you really want to stifle and stymie this Knicks team, you bring that full court pressure, even with just one guy on the ball handler, making them work to get the ball up the court, starting. Sometimes the possessions were starting with 13 seconds left. And that's more like Tom Thibodeau basketball than it is Mike Brown basketball. So that was something. And, this is a bad Nets team. So this is a team you're supposed to win handily against, even with the injuries, even without OG and Anunoby. And they didn't necessarily do that. But I did think that most things were very promising and encouraging. And there's a lot of positive things to take away from the game. So to me, the win matters. Every win you get without OG and Anunoby is critical because you don't know how many of those you're going to get. And every win you get without Landry Shamet matters for that matter. So you take the win. You love the Towns' assertiveness, domination. You love what Tyler Kolek and Josh Hart brought. And so I think generally Knicks fans, you should be happy with this game, not just for the win that matters, but also for what you saw and what it can mean moving forward. But yeah, that's it for me. Again, if you have made it to this part of the episode, I would love if you subscribe if you're not a subscriber yet, or just drop a comment. Let me know everything I said made no sense to you at all and why, and I'd love to respond to you. But until next time, yeah, this was Locked On Knicks, and I will see you next time.